Hello everyone. In this tutorial, we will like to discuss about if-else statements or the conditional logics in Java. That is, what is if-else and how does it work? So this is a very basic entity programming example or tutorial for the beginners who want to learn programming from the scratch actually. That what is a if-else statement, or what is conditional logic, and how does it work. So from at the very beginning of this tutorial, I would like to show you the basic structure of the if-else of the conditional logics in Java, or how do we use that. So as we see here, we are writing that if uh, under the first bracket of this parenthesis, we are writing the condition, and under this second bracket, we are writing some statements that we want to execute within our program. So what this basic structure does actually suggest? It suggests that we will set some certain condition here, and if this condition is true or satisfied, then only the statements under here, this second parenthesis, second brackets, will be executed. Otherwise not. So if this condition is false, the program will never enter this segment, and the statements will never be executed. So when the condition here we will write is false, the program will go to the else segments, and the statements written here will be executed. For an example, we have a variable, an integer variable a. So the value of a is 5. So we have set a condition that if a is greater than 0, that means the program will now check this condition first, that the value of a, is it greater than 0 or not. So for this specific example, yes, this condition is true. So the program will enter this parenthesis, and it will write or it will execute this statement written here. That is, in the output console we'll see that a line is printed, that is a is greater than 0. Okay, so if this condition written here, a is greater than 0, becomes false or returns the false, then what will happen? The program will enter else, and it will execute the statements written here. That, for example, for this program, it will print unknown. Okay, so obviously, first of all, the program will check the condition, and if the condition is true or valid, then it will execute this parse. Otherwise not. When this is false, it will never execute this. It will just exit from here and go to the else section and execute this parse. Okay, so now while programming, we will face sometimes some issues, like we need multiple conditions. We need to create multiple conditions. So what can we do in that case? So in that case, we can use nested if else. That is, we can create multiple conditions. For example, we have condition 1, this one. And if this condition 1 is successful, these statements written here will be executed, otherwise not. So when this is true, the program will check first this condition is true or not. So when this is true, these statements will be executed, and then it will never check whether the other conditions set here, like condition 2, condition 3, these conditions are true or false. Okay, it will never check. So if this returns the false, that means if this condition 1 becomes false, then it will check for the second condition, and then if this is true, it will execute the statements written here. Okay, and then again, as same before, it will never check the other conditions. But if this is false as well, then it will check the conditions, and you can write the conditions, so many conditions, like just adding else if, else if, else if, as similar to this. For an example, we have the value of a now -5. So the program will check the condition written here. So if a is less than 0, that means first it will check that the value of a is greater than 0 or less than 0. So this is obviously false. We are seeing that a is clearly not greater than 0. So as this is false, these lines or these statements will not be executed. It will exit from here, and then it will check the second condition. Now the second condition is that is a less than 0. So this condition is true. So now the program will execute the statements written here under this second brackets or parenthesis. So we in the output console will see that a is less than 0 is written, and then it will never check for other conditions. Okay, so while we are using if else, the nested if else, the program will check the conditions chronologically one after another, and when one is true, it will never check the conditions furthermore. It will just execute the statements under that specific condition. Okay, and when the conditions are false and false and false, then it will continuously check the conditions one after another. Okay, fine. So now we will create a program to see that is this really works or not. So first of all, within the NetBeans, I'll create my new project. Category is Java and Java application, and I will rename my project as if else. Finish. So within the main segment, as we have shown before, I'll create an integer variable. The value of a is 5. Then I'll create some conditional logics that if a is greater than 0, okay, so if we execute this program, what we can see that in the output console it is written a is greater than 0. Why? We have already explained that the variable a holds the value 5. So first of all, the program is now checking this part, this condition, as we have written a if else statement. So within this condition, if a is greater than 0, so is it true or false? So obviously this is true, not false. So as this is true, now the program will enter this parenthesis and it will execute the statements written here. And what is written here, that I am commanding the system to print a line that says a is greater than 0, and yeah, a is greater than 0. And here I am just creating new lines here for the show purpose. So this is the basic example. So now if this value I change -5, so what happens if I run the program again? We see that now the system is printing unknown. Why? Because when the value of a is -5, first it is checking this one, that if a is greater than 0. So obviously this is false. So as this is false, the program will now never enter these segments, or it will never execute the statements written here in this part. So it will go to the else part and it will execute the statements written here, and here it is written that unknown. So we are having this unknown here in our output console. So we can also see that how nested if else works. For an example, here's some else if. Just copy this here. So less than 0. Here I will put another condition. Is 0. So what we have done here, that we are taking the value of a as -5, and then I have created some conditions that if a is greater than 0, these statements should be executed. Else, if a is less than 0 and this is true, these statements should be executed. And then else this is true, then these statements should be executed. And then if no conditions are true written here, then the system will execute these statements. Now if I run this program, we are seeing that here it is written a is less than 0 because the program is not checking. So this condition first and this condition returns false because a is clearly not greater than 0. So as this is false, the program will go on and check the next one, and this condition is true. So as this is true, these statements are being executed, that is a is less than 0. And when one condition is true, then the program will never check for other conditions. So it will not check this one, or it will not go here. Okay, so you can play with different values, like if a is 0, then if I run the program, we see that it is saying a is 0. So that means this becomes false, this condition also becomes false. So as this becomes false, the program just goes to check the next condition, and it is also false. So then it goes here and then it checks this condition, and this returns true. When this is true, the program will enter this segment and then it will execute the statements. And here it is, a is 0 as we have written here. And if now this, I again change 5. So what happens? A is greater than 0. Yes, because when a is 5, the first condition is true, and whenever the first condition is true or one condition is true, it will execute the statements written here and it will never check other conditions. So that's why we are seeing that a is greater than 0, a is greater than 0. So this is a very basic example that how we can use if-else statements or the conditional logics in Java. Well, so I will write another piece of program here that is to check. For example, I will write here odd or even. That means that I will write a program here that will check the value of a. So this is odd or even. Okay, so what is actually odd or even? If we create another variable, we can use this remainder operator too. So what are we doing here? That the variable a will be divided by 2, and if there is a remainder, it will be stored within b. So for an example, now this is 5, so if I divide 5 by 2, the remainder is 1, right? So the value of b is the 1. Or if a is 4, the remainder, that is if I divide this 4 or a by 2 and the remainder is 0, there is no remainder, so the value of b is 0. So, and we know that, I will write a comment here, if the remainder after dividing, dividing number by 2 is 0, then it is even. And when the remainder after dividing a number by 2 is 1, then it is odd. Okay, so now if I set the condition if b equals to 0, so if if b equals to 0, that means if the remainder after dividing a by 2 is 0, right? So it is what? It is even. So I will write here a is even number. Okay, and else if b equals to 1, and a is odd number. So, and I don't need this. Okay, we need only two conditions. So within this example, what we are seeing that we are taking an integer variable and the value of it is initially 5, and then we are dividing that integer variable by 2 and storing the remainder in this variable, that is b. So if the remainder is 0, then the number is even, and we know that if the remainder is 1 after dividing that number by 2, then it is odd. So I have created the conditional logics here using these conditions, that if b returns a value 0, that is the value of b is 0, then that means the remainder is 0. So a is even number, and if it is the remainder or the value of b is 1, then it is an odd number. So let's see what happens if I run this program. So here we are seeing that yeah, it works. 5 is odd number. So we have created or written a program which can tell us that a number is odd or even by using this simple piece of logic. Okay, so 5 is odd number. Then if I change it to 4, 4 is even number. So what is going on here, that first of all, the value of a is 4. So when I am dividing 4 by 2, the remainder is 0. So b equals 0 here, and then the program is coming down here. So it is checking this condition first, that if b equals to 0, and this becomes what? This becomes true. This becomes true. So as this is true, these lines or these statements are being executed, and the program is not checking the next one because already one condition is true. So we are seeing that yeah, a, that means the value of a is 4 here, and is even number. So is even number. So if I change it like 17, so the value of b is now 1. So this is false, this first condition, because the value of b is not 0, so it becomes false. And when this is false, the program exists here and comes down here to check the next condition. So this returns true, and if I run the program, we'll see that we should see that 17 is odd number, because this condition is true. And if we run, and so yes, 17 is odd number as expected. Okay, so I hope this video you will find helpful for the basic programming about how to use if-else or conditional logics. If you find this video helpful, please like, share, and obviously do subscribe for more. And if you have any comments regarding this video, or if you want something else, you can request the tutorials on the comment box. So hit the comment box and we will get back to you as soon as possible with your requested tutorial. So until the next video or next tutorial, bye bye, see you.